The less you respond to their chaos, the more powerful you become. This is the moment, my friends. The moment that flips the script, that changes the game. The moment they realize they can't control you anymore. Not with silence, not with guilt, not with distance, not with drama. And let me tell you something. It's not loud. It's not a big confrontation or some dramatic goodbye. No, it's quiet. It's powerful. It's when you stay calm while they expect you to panic. When you choose peace over proving. When you walk away without looking back. Now, hey folks, imagine this. You're a storm once, chaotic, reactive, roaring back at every lightning strike they threw your way. But now, you're the mountain, still, unshaken. They hurl winds of silence, accusations, half-hearted replies, subtle digs, but they crash into your stillness and fall flat. That's the moment. That's when they sit back and realize you don't dance to their chaos anymore. And let's be real, some people never loved you. They loved the power they had over you. But now that power's gone and they're lost without it. They used to bait you with silence just to watch you spiral. They'd say things like, "You've changed," hoping you'd rush in to prove otherwise. They'd post things just vague enough to trigger jealousy, send a cold message just long enough to spark your anxiety. And every time you bit, they fed off it. But not anymore, because something happened. You woke up, you finally saw the game, and you put down the controller. You stopped explaining yourself to people who weren't listening. You stopped proving yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. And that, my friends, that's when the power shifted. Seneca once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You see, strength doesn't show up as anger or shouting or begging. Strength shows up in your silence, in your boundaries, in your refusal to let someone else decide how you feel. And let's break the biggest lie they ever told you, that you need to react, that you need to prove, that your silence means you don't care. No! Your silence means you finally do. You care about yourself. You're not here to be their puppet anymore. You're not here to entertain their emotional roller coaster, to keep apologizing just to maintain a connection, or to abandon your peace so they feel powerful. You're here for something more, for calm, for clarity, for self-respect. You're not cold, you're just no longer available for chaos. And yes, it might confuse them, it might even anger them, because they depended on your reaction to feel important. But guess what? The second you stopped being their emotional supply, the illusion of control shattered. You are no longer their emotional mirror. You are your own reflection now. You're living in alignment, not in reaction. So if you're at that point right now, if you feel the shift, if you're done playing their game, this is your moment. The moment they realize they can't control you anymore. Say it with me. I am grounded. That's your affirmation today. Type it in the comments right now. Let it be your quiet declaration. And if this message hit something inside you, if it reminded you of your own power, tap that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. We're just getting started. Number 1. You stop explaining yourself. Never waste your energy defending your peace to people who benefit from disturbing it. Here's where it begins, folks. The very first fracture in their control. The moment you stop explaining yourself. Because explanation is the leash they used to keep you close. Why didn't you call back? Why did you say that? Why don't you care like you used to? And every time you answered, not because they deserved it, but because you feared what would happen if you didn't. You were terrified of being misunderstood, misjudged, or even abandoned. That fear became a chain, and every time you explained, Every time you tried to justify your peace, your choices, your silence, you handed them the key to your emotional prison. Imagine this. You're a bird flying free, finally soaring above the storm, and yet every time they call your name, you dip lower to explain why you flew. But here's the thing, people who want to understand will never need an explanation. And those who need an explanation never truly wanted to understand. They just wanted to control. At first, not explaining yourself feels rude. It feels selfish. You start asking yourself questions. Am I being cold? Will they think I don't care? Am I becoming the villain now? That's the trick of it all. They trained you to believe that boundaries are cruelty, that silence is punishment, that saying no without an essay makes you the bad one. But my friends, let's break that lie wide open right now. Respecting your peace is not an act of war, it's an act of self-rescue. You don't owe explanations to people who are not committed to growing with you. You don't owe emotional labor to someone who turns your vulnerability into ammunition. Let that sink in. They used your guilt to keep you compliant. They used your empathy as leverage. But now you've evolved. You don't over-explain, you don't defend, you don't shrink your boundaries down just to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. You say what needs to be said, and then you let the silence speak for you. And yes, it confuses them, because confusion is the moment control starts slipping. They're used to you justifying everything. They're used to being the center of your emotional universe. But now, they're left with silence. No, why I can't come. No, sorry I didn't reply. No, here's what I really meant. Just space, just boundaries, just self-respect. And in that stillness, they finally hear the truth. You no longer serve their emotional entitlement. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." You've taken this to heart. You've stopped performing for peace. You've stopped sacrificing your truth just to maintain a fragile connection. You no longer need to explain your values to someone who keeps violating them. You are not a courtroom. You are not on trial. And most importantly, you do not exist to be constantly understood by people who refuse to understand themselves. But I get it. It's not easy. You've been conditioned to keep the peace at all costs, especially if you grew up around conflict, instability, or emotionally reactive people. Silence feels scary, boundaries feel cruel. But I'm here to tell you that fear is not your intuition. It's your old survival pattern trying to protect the version of you that didn't know their worth yet. You know better now. You've outgrown the need to explain your every move. You've outgrown the urge to clarify things for people who twist your words. You've outgrown the exhausting game of seeking approval for simply being who you are. And now, with every moment you hold your peace instead of defending it, you step deeper into your power. This is the shift they never expected. They thought you'd always explain, always justify, always soften yourself to stay. But now you've become untouchable, not because you're unreachable, but because you're finally unshakable. Say it with me right now. I owe no one my peace. Type it in the comments. Write it like a promise to yourself, like a declaration to the world around you. Show them, show yourself. Show anyone who ever tried to control you through confusion or guilt that you are no longer available for emotional negotiation. And stay with me, because next, we're going even deeper, into the silence, into the space where their old tactics fall apart. You're not just surviving anymore, you're ascending. Number 2, their silence doesn't control you anymore. The loudest power move is not chasing the noise, it's thriving in the silence. Let's be real, folks. There was a time when their silence used to haunt you, when a late reply felt like rejection and a scene with no response lit your mind on fire. You'd stare at your phone, refreshing the screen, rereading messages, wondering, what did I do wrong? Did I say too much? Not enough? Should I double text? Should I fix it? But here's the hard truth. It wasn't just their silence that hurt. It was the way you let it define you. Because back then, their silence wasn't just quiet. It was control. They didn't need to yell. They didn't need to beg. All they had to do was pull away. And you came running. They'd withdraw just a little, and suddenly you were doing emotional cartwheels to pull them back in. And to them, that was power. Because when someone learns they can control your thoughts, your peace, your self-worth, just by doing nothing, that's when they know they have you, but not anymore. Now you've changed. Now when they go quiet, you stay still. You don't spiral. You don't chase. You don't send a follow-up trying to patch up a conversation that wasn't even broken. You've finally understood what the Stoics taught all along. Some things are up to us, some things are not. And guess what? Their silence, not your responsibility, not your problem, not your concern. You no longer allow someone else's lack of communication to dictate your emotional weather. Imagine it like this. You used to be a kite, flying wherever their wind took you. Their silence? A storm. And you, completely at its mercy, but now you're an oak tree, still, rooted, grounded. Their silence can storm all it wants, but you're not moving. Because when you stop chasing their attention, you start reclaiming your power. Every unread message becomes just that, a message, not a threat, not a wound, just space. And yeah, in the beginning it feels weird. You'll feel that itch to fix things, to clarify, to reconnect. But here's where the lie lived. You thought that silence was punishment, that if they didn't speak, it meant something was wrong with you. But silence isn't punishment, it's information, and sometimes it's just immaturity wearing a mask. When someone uses silence to make you feel small, to make you chase, to make you doubt your worth, what they're really doing is revealing their own lack of emotional maturity. And you've evolved past that. Because now, instead of panicking in the quiet, you embrace it, you use it, you get back to your life, your goals, your mission. They expect the old you, the one who would break the silence first, just to relieve the tension. But now, you understand that silence isn't just a void, it's a mirror. It reflects who's really at peace, and who's just playing games. You don't need to fill every gap with a response. You don't need to prove you care by chasing confusion. You care about yourself now, and that changes everything. When they go silent, and you don't flinch, it shakes them. Because their power didn't come from their words, it came from your fear. But when fear dies, so does control. Let me ask you something. How much of your past peace did you lose waiting on a reply? How many nights did you spend overthinking a silence that was never about you, but about their ego? That ends now. Because you've become the kind of person who understands one powerful truth. If your presence didn't earn their respect, your absence will speak volumes. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." You've taken that to heart. Their silence isn't a threat to your identity anymore. It's just silence. And if they return, they return. If they don't, life moves, and so do you. So here's your affirmation today, my friends. I stay calm in the silence. Type it in the comments right now. Let it be your power statement. Show them. Show yourself. Show the version of you that used to panic, that those days are over, that you've stepped into peace, and you're not leaving it just to decode someone's silence. And stay with me, because what happens next? That's when you stop needing closure and start creating it. It's about to get even deeper. Number 3, you no longer chase closure. Closure is not something they give you. It's something you give yourself the moment you stop needing them to explain what they chose to break. Let's go there, my friends, deep into one of the hardest, most liberating moments of this entire journey, the moment you stop chasing closure, the moment you stop begging for answers that won't bring peace, the moment you finally realize they knew what they were doing. They knew it when they pulled away. They knew it when they left you hanging, confused, second-guessing everything. And still, they walked away without giving you the one thing you thought you needed, an explanation. You replayed every conversation, every look, every silence. You wondered, what happened? Was it something I said? Was I not enough? Was it them? Was it me? You tried to connect the dots with broken pieces. You stayed up late reading between the lines of messages that weren't even there. And why? Because you believed the lie we're all sold. That healing requires their permission. But here's the truth most never say out loud. Closure is not about clarity from them. It's about peace with yourself. Because let's be real, even if they did explain, would it really satisfy you? Or would it just open a new door of questions? Would it fix anything, or just delay your healing? Imagine you're holding a book in your hands. The story was beautiful, until they ripped out the last chapter and walked away. And there you are, waiting, hoping they'll come back and finish the ending. But days pass, then weeks, then months, and nothing. Here's what you didn't realize. That book wasn't theirs to finish. It was yours. You were always the author. And now you pick up the pen. You don't chase an ending. You create it. You see, when you stop asking why, when you stop needing them to validate your hurt or justify their silence, something powerful happens. You rise. You stop being a prisoner to their decision. You stop playing the endless game of, if only they'd talk to me one more time. That game has no winner, only exhaustion. And let me tell you this, it's not weakness that keeps people chasing closure. It's the hope that maybe, just maybe, things weren't as cruel or careless as they felt, that maybe they didn't mean to hurt you, that maybe you mattered more than their silence suggested. But hope can become a leash. And what you need now is freedom. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And this right here is your reaction, not another message, not another breakdown, but silence, stillness, self-declaration. You decide, I don't need to understand their why to be done with their how. And yeah, it confuses them, because they were expecting you to chase, to seek closure, to knock on a door they closed but left unlocked just in case. They thought you'd circle back, looking for pieces, but instead you vanished into clarity. You didn't need one last talk, you needed one last truth, and you gave it to yourself. That's when the shift happens. That's when they feel it. Because closure was their last bit of power. And when you no longer need their words to feel whole, their control dissolves. You've become someone different now, someone who doesn't beg to be understood, someone who doesn't hand over their peace in exchange for answers. You don't just move on, you ascend. So if you've been stuck in that cycle, waiting for a message, a sign, a moment to feel finished, hear me now, you don't need it. The chapter is closed the moment you decide to stop rereading it. Say it out loud. I give myself closure. That's your power today. Type it in the comments right now. Make it real. Make it yours. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you're done chasing peace from people who never intended to offer it. That you are the author now, and this new chapter. It's already better. Stay with me. Because next, we're going to talk about the moment you say no without guilt, and how that simple word becomes your strongest shield. Number 4. You say no without explaining. When you say no without guilt, you say yes to your peace. There's a moment, so subtle yet so powerful, when they realize they can't twist your time, your mind, or your boundaries anymore. And it doesn't come with a fight. It doesn't come with a speech. It comes with a quiet, firm no. No drama, no apology, no 20-minute explanation trying to make them feel comfortable with your decision. Just no. And that's when it hits them. You're not the same person who used to bend. My friends, let's call it what it is. You weren't too nice. You were afraid. Afraid of disappointing them. Afraid of being misunderstood. Afraid of what would happen if you didn't say yes. So you kept sacrificing little pieces of yourself, your time, your energy, your peace, all to keep the waters calm. But here's the problem. Calm on the surface doesn't mean peace underneath. And deep down, you were drowning. They'd ask for favors that drained you. Push your boundaries like they didn't exist. Disrespect your time, your space, your values, and you'd still try to keep the connection smooth. Why? Because they trained you to believe that saying no meant you didn't care, that holding your ground made you selfish. And that's the lie you have to break right now. Saying no doesn't mean you don't care. It means you finally care enough to stop betraying yourself. Imagine you're standing in your own home and someone walks in tracking mud across the floor, over and over. At first you stay quiet. You clean up after them. You tell yourself it's not a big deal. But one day you lock the door, not with anger, not with hate, just clarity. Because this is your home, your mind, your soul, and you've decided it's not open for disrespect anymore. When you say no without explaining, it shakes them, because their power lived in your guilt, in your hesitation, in your need to be liked. But the moment you stop over-explaining, they lose their leverage. Suddenly they realize you're not negotiating your standards anymore. You're enforcing them. And yeah, it won't always feel easy. You'll have those moments where the old you kicks in. That urge to follow up your no with a paragraph. To soften it. To make sure they're not mad. To say, I just need time because I've been really busy with work and life, and also, stop. You don't owe a performance. You don't need a permission slip to protect your peace. Seneca said, "A man is unhappy, though he reigns the world, if he does not consider himself happy." And let me tell you this, if you keep saying yes to everyone else just to keep the peace, you will lose your own. That's not kindness. That's self-abandonment. And you've done enough of that. You've lived enough of your life trying not to upset others, while quietly upsetting yourself every single day. But now you're different. You're walking in your worth. And when someone asks for too much, or pushes too far, or disrespects your energy, your answer isn't aggressive. It's not bitter. It's not defensive. It's just firm. No, that doesn't work for me. That's it. That's the boundary. And the strength isn't in how loud it is. It's in how little you need to justify it. And let me be clear. This isn't about becoming rigid or arrogant. It's about becoming sovereign. You're not saying no to punish them. You're saying no because you've learned what your peace costs, and you're not giving discounts anymore. You've realized that not everything deserves your yes. Some things deserve your distance. So the next time you feel that pressure building, that inner voice whispering, just say yes to avoid conflict. Pause. Breathe. And remember who you are now. Someone who doesn't hand over control of their life for momentary approval. Your affirmation today is this: my no needs no explanation. Type it in the comments. Let it echo. Let it remind you and everyone watching that your peace is sacred. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you no longer shrink to fit someone else's expectations. And stay with me, because next, we're stepping into an even deeper power. The moment you stop reacting emotionally and start responding like the grounded force they never saw coming. Number 5. You respond, you don't react. Your reaction was their control, your stillness. That's your freedom. There's a moment, so sharp, so undeniable, when they realize they can't control you anymore. And it happens not when you say something, but when you don't snap, when you don't rush to defend yourself, when you don't fall into the emotional trap they so carefully set. That's the moment they feel it. The power they once had, gone. Because the version of you that used to flinch at every jab, explain every misunderstanding, and fall apart under pressure, that version is gone. And who you've become, that changes everything. In the past, they could get to you with just a shift in tone, a delayed message, a passive-aggressive comment, one word, and your whole mood would crumble. They didn't even have to scream, just a well-timed silence, a half-hearted K.A. flirty story on social media. Boom, your day was ruined. You'd stew in it, trying to decode their behavior, trying to fix something you didn't break. You'd react, fast, emotional, impulsive. You'd argue. You'd explain. You'd try to win something that was designed for you to lose peace. But now you respond. And responding is different. Responding is power. Responding is a pause, a breath, a choice. You don't jump into the ring every time they throw a punch. You observe, not out of fear, but out of discipline. Because you finally understood what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." Let's talk about that. Because they want it to upset you. They want you to get loud, to get messy, to argue. Because that's where they feel most powerful. That's the battleground they know. But now, you've changed the battlefield. You've taken the fight out of their hands and replaced it with silence, with clarity, with calm. And that, my friends, is more terrifying than any argument. Imagine it like this. You're the ocean, deep, steady. They can throw rocks, they can stir the surface, but the depth, untouched, that's who you've become. They try to pull you into chaos, but you don't take the bait. You know now that not every comment deserves a reply. Not every tone deserves a reaction. Not every emotional flare-up deserves your energy. Your peace is no longer up for grabs. And yeah, sure, it's not easy. That old urge to react still whispers. When someone pushes your buttons, it's tempting to lash out, to prove a point, to win. But here's the thing. Every time you react without thinking, you trade power for momentary relief. And you're done with that trade. You've evolved past needing the last word. You don't win by fighting. You win by not being moved at all. They test you because they don't trust your calm. They say things like, "Oh, so you don't care now?" Or they try to bait you with jealousy, with distance, with passive aggression. Why? Because they're trying to shake something inside you. But you've detached from their control. You've stepped into something greater. You don't live on the emotional edge anymore. You live in the middle, steady, balanced, unmoved. And let's be clear, this isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about mastering your emotions so they don't master you. It's about having the strength to feel everything and still choose peace. That's what Stoicism teaches us. Not to be cold, but to be conscious. And you, right now, are conscious of every moment they try to drag you back into the storm, and instead of reacting, you rise. So when they throw the shade, when they go quiet to punish you, when they flirt with confusion, when they twist your words, don't give them the chaos they're hoping for. Give them silence. Give them clarity. Give them a calm that says, "You no longer have access to my peace." And here's your affirmation for today. I respond with strength, not emotion. Type it in the comments. Let it settle in your mind. Let it echo in your actions. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that your reaction is no longer for sale, that your emotional control is no longer outsourced to someone else's games. Stay with me, because up next, we're walking away from the drama entirely. Not through rage, but through quiet withdrawal. And when you withdraw your energy, that's when the game ends. Number 6, you don't argue, you withdraw your energy. You don't need to raise your voice when you've already risen above the situation. This is where things shift into a whole different level of power, not by dominating, not by debating, but by disappearing from the battlefield altogether. When they try to start a fight, when they throw the bait, when they try to provoke you with sharp words, twisted meanings, or little jabs masked as jokes, you don't argue, you don't explain, you don't react. You do something far more powerful. You withdraw your energy. And folks, let me tell you, that's the moment they feel it. That's when they realize you're no longer participating in the game. And without your energy, there is no game. In the past, you'd fall right into it. They'd say something passive-aggressive, and boom, you were in it. You'd fire back, defend your name, try to correct the narrative. Not because you loved drama, but because you felt the need to be understood. You thought that explaining yourself would fix the issue, that arguing meant you were standing up for yourself. But the truth? All it did was give them fuel. They didn't want understanding, they wanted control. They didn't want a resolution, they wanted a reaction. But you've evolved now. You've realized that arguing isn't always strength. Sometimes it's surrender in disguise. You're surrendering your peace, your composure, your emotional energy, all for the illusion of winning. But winning what, exactly? A back and forth that only leaves you drained? A debate where the goalposts keep moving? No, thank you. That version of you, the one that needed to prove their point, to be heard, to be right, that version is gone. Now, when they come at you with tension, accusations, emotional heat, you choose something different. You choose stillness. You choose space. You choose that silent power that says more in one quiet exit than any 1,000-word rebuttal ever could. Because, let's face it, some people aren't looking for truth. They're looking for dominance. And by refusing to argue, you refuse to be dominated. Picture this. They toss a match, expecting flames. But instead of igniting, you simply remove the firewood. Nothing catches, no explosion, just silence, just detachment. That's when they feel it. That's when they realize the power they once held, the power to disrupt your peace, is gone. Marcus Aurelius said it best. How much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the circumstances that arouse them in us? That's wisdom right there. The damage didn't come from what they said. It came from how much energy you gave it. But now, you've taken that energy back. You've realized you don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to sit in the courtroom defending yourself against someone who's already decided to misunderstand you. And yes, it might confuse them. It might even frustrate them, because they're used to your engagement. They're used to the emotional ping-pong. But now, when you don't swing back, the ball just drops. The game ends, and they're left holding their own chaos. And here's the beauty of it all. You didn't lose control. You reclaimed it. Walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's emotional maturity. It's saying, I value my peace more than I value being right. That's next-level power. Because when you reach that point where nothing they say can pull you out of your calm, you become unshakable. You stop trying to prove your worth in conversations that are designed to question it. You don't ghost. You grow. You exit conversations not with ego, but with clarity. You no longer raise your voice, you raise your standards, and that's what makes the difference. So if you've ever felt trapped in an emotional tug-of-war, this is your permission slip to drop the rope. You don't owe anyone your energy just because they're loud. You don't owe anyone an explanation just because they're offended. You owe yourself peace. That's it. Your affirmation today, I protect my energy. Type it in the comments right now. Let it ring. Let it remind you that your silence is not absence, it's authority. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you've stopped arguing, not because you gave up, but because you finally woke up. And stay with me, because next we're diving into what happens when you're truly unbothered by their tests, when you stop biting the bait and start watching them unravel. Number 7, you're unfazed by their tests. When you stop reacting to their games, you stop being a player and start being the lesson. There's a shift that hits them like a punch they never saw coming. And it doesn't happen when you explode. It doesn't happen when you confront. It happens when you don't flinch, when their little games fall flat, when their emotional hooks stop working, when they try to make you jealous, uncertain, insecure, and all they get is silence, stillness, and calm. That's when they feel it. They've lost control. Because let's not sugarcoat it, people test you, especially the ones who are used to having emotional leverage. They say things just vague enough to sting, just sharp enough to slice. Oh, this guy I've been talking to. You've been distant lately. Maybe we want different things. All designed to poke, to rattle, to see if you'll bite. Because if you bite, they still have access. If you react, they still have power. And once upon a time, you did. You reacted. You tried to prove yourself. You tried to win them over. You tried to chase clarity from someone who was deliberately being confusing because you believed the lie. If I care, I have to respond. If they tested your worth, you had to prove it. If they hinted at other options, you had to compete. But now you've stopped playing, and that alone flips everything. You see, when you're grounded, when your confidence comes from within, tests don't shake you. They expose them. When they post thirst traps for attention and you don't engage, when they delay responses and you don't double text, when they throw emotional curveballs and you just observe them calmly, that's when the power flips. That's when they realize the game only works if you play. And you've retired. Imagine this. You're standing in a dojo. They're swinging wildly, trying to hit your emotions with every move. But you don't even lift your hands. You just watch, focused, centered. And in that moment, they realize the truth. They're shadowboxing, fighting a version of you that no longer exists. This doesn't mean you're cold. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've grown. You've stopped being a puppet to emotional manipulation. You don't get pulled into chaos just because someone's bored, insecure, or needs reassurance at your expense. You've made peace with who you are, and that peace is now your armor. Marcus Aurelius said, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." That's you now. They come at you with waves of games, and you remain unbothered. not out of arrogance, but out of understanding. You've realized testing someone's value is what people do when they're unsure of their own. And here's the kicker. They're not used to that. They're used to pulling strings and getting a show. But when their silence doesn't spark anxiety, when their jokes don't trigger a response, when their mind games get met with emotional detachment, they start to question everything. Why didn't they react? Did they not care? Did I lose them? Are they seeing someone else? The test they created to shake you ends up shaking them. And let's be honest, it's tempting to respond, to clap back, to make them see how immature their tactics are. But you're not here to educate people who test your boundaries instead of respecting them. You're not here to entertain confusion. You're not here to decode mixed signals. You're here to live in clarity, and anyone who brings fog instead of light loses access. Your calm response to their chaos isn't just silence. It's a message that says, I'm not moved by insecurity. I'm not controlled by confusion. I don't react, I choose. That's how you become untouchable. That's how you become the lesson. Your affirmation today: I don't react to games. Type it in the comments. Let it be your declaration. Let it remind you and the world around you that you've stopped being manipulated by little tests, that you've risen, that you're grounded, that you are finally unfazed. Stay with me, because next we're going even deeper, into the moment you stop trying to please and start prioritizing purpose. When you stop orbiting around them and they realize your world doesn't revolve around their approval anymore. Number 8. You prioritize purpose over pleasing. A man with a mission cannot be manipulated by someone without one. This is the moment, folks. The moment they look at you and realize you're no longer orbiting around their mood. You're no longer waking up to please. You're waking up to build. You've stopped chasing smiles, stopped rearranging your life for temporary approval, stopped sacrificing your peace just to avoid disappointing them. You've traded the need to be liked for the power of living with purpose. Let's be real. There was a time when their emotions dictated your schedule. When they were upset, you cancelled plans. When they withdrew, you bent over backwards to pull them back in. When they questioned you, you stopped everything just to explain. You gave and gave and gave because you thought that's what love was. That being available 24/7 proved your worth. That constantly pleasing someone else would secure your place in their life. But let me break that lie for good. They didn't respect your effort because you didn't respect your mission. See, they don't fall for the one who gives up everything to please them. They fall for the one who doesn't need to. The one who's building something real. The one who isn't looking for validation, but who wakes up with direction. The one who isn't lost in emotions, but anchored in vision. Because a person grounded in purpose becomes magnetic, unshakable, unbothered, and impossible to control. Now, you're not cancelling your gym session just because they had a mood swing. You're not pushing your business to the side to prove your loyalty. You're not ignoring your goals just to be constantly available. Because now, you've remembered who you are. You're not here to orbit, you're here to lead. And if they want to join you on the journey, they're welcome. But you're not pausing your growth for anyone. Imagine this. You're a train on a track, moving toward your vision. They used to be the switch operator, diverting your path with drama, with distractions, with emotional fog. But now, you've locked the track. The train moves, and if they can't keep up, they're simply left behind. Not with bitterness, not with spite, just truth. And yes, it might make them uncomfortable, because they were used to being the center, They were used to the power of being needed. But when your days start revolving around discipline, not their attention, they feel the shift. When you say, "I've got work," and you mean it, when you don't drop your priorities every time they call, when your peace doesn't depend on whether they're happy with you, they realize you've found something more important than their approval. Seneca once wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." And my friends, that's where most people live, tossed around by whoever pulls hardest. But not you. Not anymore. You've set your course. Your vision isn't negotiable. And because of that, you're no longer easy to distract, to shake, to manipulate. Let me be clear. This doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you've stopped betraying yourself. You're not cold, you're committed, you're not distant, you're disciplined. And the truth is, your presence is more powerful now, because it's not desperate. You're not chasing closeness. You're offering partnership, without ever compromising your mission. And here's the truth. When they realize your purpose comes before pleasing, their grip weakens, because control only works on someone who fears being disliked. You don't fear that anymore, because what you're building, your mind, your mission, your legacy, is too important to pause every time someone throws an emotional curveball. You've stopped being reactive. You've become relentless. So here's your affirmation today. Purpose over pleasing. Write it in the comments, stamp it on your mindset. Let it remind you every time you're tempted to put yourself second that this is your season of alignment, not approval. Show them, show yourself, show the world that your life no longer revolves around keeping people happy. It revolves around keeping yourself whole. In conclusion, the moment they realize they can't control you anymore is the moment you truly reclaim your power. You've stopped explaining, reacting, chasing, and started leading. If this message hit home, like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more grounded strength and Stoic wisdom.